I too want to lend my voice to this very important resolution in recognizing and commemorating 50 years of the March on Washington. And I believe all the salient points have been raised by my colleagues as to the importance of this recognition. But I also want to reflect back on where we've come. Because today I live in a community 50 years ago that my family couldn't have bought a house in the city of Gardena. Yesterday we celebrated a musical event in a park that 50 years ago we couldn't have gathered, with almost 9,000 people of all races to listen to music. 50 years ago that couldn't have happened in the city of Gardena. So we have come a long ways, but as one of my colleagues asked the question, at what point will we need the courts, and at what point do we no longer need quotas? At the point of when we change the hearts of men and women who quit discriminating and act like there's not a double standard that still exists here in this country. We will still need quotas, and we will still need the justice system when you have cities like New York who have a stop, frisk, and question, and 70% of those individuals who have been stopped, questioned, and frisked are African Americans and Latinos. At some point, when do we march on New York? We will still need the court system and quotas when an unjust verdict, such as the George Zimmerman verdict that we saw in Florida. At what point do we march on Stanford, Florida? So we have come a long ways, but there is still a long ways to go. And I would ask that, in the words of Dr. King, we do not get complacent. Because again, A. Philip Randolph's fight and organizing of this march was about economic justice, because he stated, it doesn't matter if I can live in any community in America. It doesn't matter if I can ride on any transportation system in America if I can't afford to live in that neighborhood, if I can't afford to access that transportation system, if I can't afford that restaurant. And today, those economic barriers still exist. We had Lilly Ledbetter in this floor months ago, and she talked about the differences in what a woman earns and what a male earns. Many of those same numbers reflect African Americans and Latinos. So we're still fighting for economic justice in this country. When we need a status on boys and men of color in California and in Washington, D.C., we still have a long ways to go. So I submit to you, my colleagues, that we have come a long ways in the 50 years, but there's still a long ways to go. I'm committed to that movement as Dr. King, as A. Philip Randolph was. We have to open up our hearts, open up our minds, and in the words of Dr. King, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. It's too many good folks in California, it's too many good folks in America are remaining silent on these critical issues of economic and racial justice here in this country.